r/ask Reddit. What is clearly a myth but is deep rooted in our society? That you need to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. If you sincerely think someone is missing, then report it. The faster that a missing person report is filed, the better chance there is that the person will be found. This is especially crucial when it comes to missing children. This is an important one. It's also real weird how shows keep saying gotta wait 24 hours and the first 48 hours are the most important. 24 hours for missing persons, 48 for murder/kidnap. They act like they are not related. The belief that lightning never strikes twice in the same place. Actually it does, and sometimes with great frequency. Doesn't the very existence of a lightning rod invalidate this saying? The myth comes from the fact that storms move and lightning won't strike in the same spot in the same storm, but even that isn't true, especially with a lightning rod, though rarely will it strike it twice in the same storm. The Middle Ages were less barbaric and dark than we think. As a medieval historian, I agree. The Victorians are who screwed us over on this one. What did the Victorians do that changed our perception? That you can't get pregnant if X. Many things can lower fertility, but unless you literally do not have a uterus and or ovaries, there's always a chance, for better or worse. BTW, as some of these pregnancies can be dangerous. I've known infertile women who mothered kids because their husband was hyperfertile. Their hormonal levels shifted as they got older. Their birth control failed because of medication or surgery, etc etc. Assume there's a risk, or a chance, unless the equipment isn't there. You can't get pregnant if you have sex at night because the sperm is asleep. Can't get pregnant if you don't have sex. Follow me for more life hacks. Leaning your head back for a bloody nose. I think we just tell people this so they stop bleeding on everything else and keep their blood in their own throat. The doctor said all the bleeding was internal. That's where the blood is supposed to be. The alpha-beta social hierarchy that we observed in wolves. The researcher who performed the experiment realized he had made many mistakes in his original take, and has spent the rest of his life trying to undo the damage that report has created. Even if this were true in wolves, I'm curious who decided that the exact same thing applied to humans. Was there an academic foundation for that, or did profoundly insecure men just read a paper about dogs and decide that sounds like it would work for me? Yep, the second one. Message is harmful and East Asian cuisine is bad because of message. My wife used to think she had an allergy to message, because the only 2 Chinese restaurants in our hometown that didn't make her sick were the ones that claimed not to use it. It wasn't until she started noticing how many other things she eats that have message that she realized that it probably wasn't what was making her sick. Does your wife have a peanut allergy? Peanut oil is commonly used in Chinese food. Generally, peanut oil wouldn't be likely to trigger a reaction if it's been refined enough, but sometimes a cheaper peanut oil will still contain the proteins. The amount of myths, clever marketing and bro science in the health and nutrition world is honestly too much to even list here. You mean there isn't one secret food that will make me shred fat better than cardio? There are several. For $19.95 a month I will fill you on the details. Anyone says you can trim fat in X area by doing Y exercises. Totally impossible. You'll lose fat proportionally over all areas of your body. You can't just target one area to work on. I'm speculating here, but could that have come from the fact that you build those specific muscles, causing more of a visual change? Or am I totally off base? Exercise is something I know very little about. That's basically how bodybuilding works. Lifting in specific ways will add muscle to specific areas. Then cutting weight all over will expose that muscle. However, it's still important to note that it's a strategy for building muscle, not losing weight. 99% of spot training exercises won't build muscle in a serious way and are a waste of time. At the end of the day, and this pains me to say as a lifelong runner, you can't really cardio your way to a good body comp. You gotta lift. Edit. Guys. By spot training I'm clearly talking about the aforementioned targeted cardio. You know, the original point being discussed. If I had meant isolation lifts, I'd have said isolation lifts. That OCD is liking things to be extremely neat, tidy or organized. OMG. I'm so OCD. Drives me crazy. After meeting someone who actually has OCD and seeing how much it affects their life, I now change what I say to I'm very meticulous when I want things organized a certain way. This is in India. If you pass out faint, rub the person's feet to wake them up. TV serials taught the population this trick. Now people do this for all passing out, including drownings, heart attacks, and other serious ailments. Jesus Christ. I passed out once in my town at the farmer's market and some foreign woman started rubbing my feet. Now I know why. Today I learned to pretend to pass out in India for free foot rubs. The alpha crap people still use in dog training. Even the guy who came up with it regrets it. It turns out if you're mean to your dog, it's probably going to be mean back. And if it's not, you've successfully traumatized it into being scared shitless of you. I feel bad for that guy. After he realized his mistake, he tried his absolute best to convince people that he was wrong and that alpha wolves aren't a thing. And nobody listened. As a journalism major once told me, the first thing they teach you is that nobody reads retractions. That Marilyn Manson removed 2 ribs to be able to suck himself off. This one is funny to me because my belief is it became so well known due to the fact that no one was too surprised to hear about it and didn't question it. It was also surprisingly global in its reach. I've even heard this story told in China, though I'm not sure if the person knew who Marilyn Manson is, but he does look like the kind of guy who would do that. It's illegal to have your interior light going in the car, lol. It isn't illegal, but it's still distracting all the same. In Denmark it is, if it sufficiently inhibits your ability to orientate your surroundings and drive safely. So basically it's subjective, edit, and mostly concerns driving at night. The widespread belief that people are sabotaging Halloween candy with needles and razors, despite there being, if I recall correctly, only one documented case in the US, ever. Also, that people are lacing the kids' candy with drugs. Drugs are expensive. Nobody is going to waste their stash on random kids. That one documented case is a guy that tried to kill his own kids or stepkids or something too. His own kids, yes, to get insurance money. Zodiac signs. People be using your birthday to find boyfriend, girlfriend. Dude, as if I have a choice to choose my birthday. My nephew, 12, is big into zodiac signs. He recently went on a big rant to me and my parents about 3 zodiac signs in particular he hated. He wouldn't associate with those 3 signs at all cause they were always awful people. I then informed him myself and his grandparents were those 3 zodiac signs. He responded, well, there's exceptions to every rule. I worked with a woman who was like that, had problems with certain signs. She loved confirming how people were behaving because of their sign. So I lied about my birthday, told her I was a completely different sign. She'd keep saying that's such a Taurus thing to do. Let her reinforce all her ideas about that sign before coming clean. There used to be a thing in Korea about fan death. A belief that a running fan would eventually deprive a room of oxygen and could kill the occupants if they left it running too long. Apparently the belief was prevalent enough that all fans sold there were usually equipped with a safety auto shut-off timer mechanism, kind of like clothes steam irons. I have no idea if it's true, but I've heard that fan death was a cause of death listed to avoid social stigma of the real cause of death, suicide. Percent 100. My ex-wife's family is Korean. Her brother was diabetic and continued to drink like he had a death wish for 10 years. He died at 33, similar to Amy Winehouse. Puked all alcohol from his system 8 hours before death but still died shortly after we checked on him in the morning. According to the Korean family, he died from diabetes. He died because his insulin failed him. He died because he was a too holy of a firstborn son of the holiest of gods, so he left to be with Jesus. He died because his non-Christian friends bring bad spirits and influence. Nothing about 16 servings of alcohol for days on end while trying to shoot insulin to keep up with it. Swimming within 30 minutes of eating isn't dangerous. It doesn't cause cramps. Waiting 30 minutes makes it much less likely for kids to vomit. I ignore that rule all the time as a kid until the vomit happened. And now I get confused about the cramps thing. That black ladybugs with red spots are poisonous. When I was young, I had to give a presentation about ladybugs when someone claimed the spots signify the age of the ladybug in years. I said it was not true. The whole class disagreed with me because, after all, it is common knowledge that a ladybug with 7 dots equals a 7-year-old ladybug, and of course a 24-dotted Subcoccinella 24 punctata has to be 24 years old. I refused to give in until the teacher argued that, since everybody was arguing against me, I was clearly wrong and should let go already. 19 teens and an adult so convinced bugs could reach the ripe age of 24 years old. Nobody agreed with me and some of my classmates kept bullying me about it for the rest of the year. The daftness haunts me to this day. This bugs me because you were giving the presentation. Clearly you had done more ladybug research. I'm Britain. Kids are told that if they eat carrots it will help them see in the dark. This originated from World War II. It's crazy how many people actually still believe it. I thought this was only a British myth fact told as kids, as I found out it came during World War II during the bombings. I didn't know it's worldwide spread. Cool to see though, and that there's actually some truth to it. The British wanted to hide how well their radar tech worked, and they wanted the population to eat more local produce. So they spread the rumor that their pilots had excellent vision and could see German planes before they could see them because they ate a lot of carrots. It doesn't actually help you see in the dark, but carrots contain a lot of vitamin A, which is actually great for your vision, so that theory is not entirely misplaced. Watermelon seeds will still grow in my stomach. Thanks for ruining my childhood, Angelica Pickles. That the marshmallow experiment demonstrated that kids who can delay gratification will be more successful later in life. On further review, it was discovered that what it actually demonstrated was that kids who are not economically disadvantaged will be more successful. But the most recent study found no meaningful correlation between the ability to delay gratification as a child and success later in life. https://Anderson-review, UCLA. edu/new study disavows marshmallow tests predictive powers. I love how much of social science is basically oh whoops. We accidentally discovered that being poor is a major setback to kids' development and ability to grow into a well-rounded human being. Add it to the list. I am, somehow, less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. Stephen Jay Gould. The myth of the one partner for you. There is no one. I'm like a die-hard romantic and I completely agree with you. So many people think if they just keep going through people they'll eventually find the one and it'll be a super easy zero effort relationship. Hilariously, 3 other same people that usually end up cheating. Truth is sure, you'll find people you're more compatible with. That's important, but you gotta both put the work in and make something special that lasts, not just find it out of nowhere. Hard work always pays off. I know people that work like horses in heat on a derrick till retirement and get duck all for it. Edit. I'd like to point out I'm not saying working hard is always a pointless endeavor. You can't get anywhere if you don't, unless you're born already somewhere. But it's taught as though throwing yourself at whatever work you can will prosper you, and that is often simply not true. You either have to know, or be trained to know, how to put your hard work into the right areas and not put up with people who expect your hard work for little in return. You have to work smart as well as hard, but once you've done it for a while, it's enough to just work moderately. The point stands: hard work always pays off is a myth most of us get taught as children. Cats don't get attached to their owners but to the house. Completely wrong. Truth: cats take so much shit, even from people who love them. They're not sociopaths. I wish people would stop projecting. Also, cats aren't more likely to eat you after you die. I love this study. Cats enjoy social interaction and it's like, no shit. One of our cats walks around yowling if he can't sit in my husband's lap. He wants to be held 2 hours a day probably. Cats are often only affectionate with their owners, which is probably where this comes from. A cop has to tell you they are a cop if you ask. Not encouraging criminals here. But if you are up to some shady shit and think someone might be a cop, shut up and leave. Go about your shady business later somewhere else. Badger, I'm looking at you. An engagement ring has to have a diamond, and also as a general rule it should be worth 3 months of your salary. Both come from an incredibly successful marketing campaign by diamond mining trading company called De Beers. The concept of pulling oneself up by one's own bootstraps. This phrase was coined as an impossibility, and yet we still expect people to be successful using this as an example. Edit. I fear some commenters miss the point of this. No one is saying you cannot succeed, but grab onto your shoes and try to pull yourself up. You can't do that. This phrase first appeared in the 19th century in a newspaper article criticizing a charlatan making unverified claims. The writer wrote something like, "Next he'll tell us he launched himself over the river by pulling on his bootstraps." That a polygraph test can actually be used to detect if someone is lying. Open bracket. This is still used in law enforcement. It's insane. In the same vein, eyewitness reports are notoriously unreliable. I can attest to this. Was robbed at knife point at a convenience store I worked at. Police asked what color their clothing was and if it had any logos. I said I was sure they were wearing black. Didn't see any logos. Open bracket. This was about 30 minutes after the robbery. Then I watched the CCTV and they were wearing blue Adidas tracksuits. That losing your virginity should hurt when you have a vagina. In reality, the hymen isn't really that much of a thing as society makes you believe. It isn't proof of virginity either. If being penetrated the first time is painful, the person with the vagina is not physically ready to be penetrated. The vagina lengthens and lubricates itself when the person is aroused so that it can accommodate a penis. Foreplay and maybe give them an orgasm before penetration to ensure the vagina is ready. TL. Doctor, is their tight and dry they're not ready for penetrative sex? Get them good and horny first, eater. Some have pointed out that some people may have a thick hymen that does need to be broken and is therefore painful. But it's not that common at all, and the myth that it always is painful is therefore still untrue. Sorry to those who do experience this. I didn't mean to invalidate you. If you shave your hair, it will grow back faster, darker, and or coarser. Faster, darker and or coarser. God, I love Daft Punk. Red goes faster. Orc mentality. Next you're gonna tell me that purple isn't the sneakiest color. That snakes are evil and will attack you. Snakes are very shy creatures who are afraid of humans and only bites in self-defense. Except maybe black mambas. They are hyper-territorial and aggressive. They will charge you if you get within 20 feet and they are super quick. That the average person swallows 7 spiders a year in their sleep. Where TF did that even come from? IDK about you guys. But I've had a grand total of 0 spiders climb on me while I've been awake this year. I can't imagine there's any chance that I've had 7 crawl on me while I'm sleeping. Let alone crawl on me and make their way directly into my mouth. Spiders. Georg, who lives in a cave and eats over 10,000 each day, is an outlier and should not have been included in the dataset. That ancient humans were in any more environmentally responsible or had better morals. They were more environmentally responsible in that they didn't have the technological capacity to duck up the environment to the extent we have over the past 2 centuries. If they had the ability to, though, they absolutely would have. Astrology. Bigfoot. Think about it. It's got lots of layers. Adults have always had stories to keep their kids from wandering off and getting into things they shouldn't. People come up with stories that are contextual to their lives. Native people would not have had stories about strangers with candy in vans to keep kids from wandering off. Everything that early indigenous people would have had knowledge of was related to the environments around them. Wild things, wild places, wild people. Also, take into consideration the fact that Homo sapiens have shared this planet with several other hominid species over time. How uncanny valley-ish must it be to stumble into a group of people that kind of look like us, but definitely aren't us. Imagine how early man had to treat living life and raising a family on Earth. Don't wander off or disappear into the woods. There's kinda people in there that will do who knows what. The persistence of Bigfoot belief all over the globe, combined with the fact that there just isn't a Bigfoot, we would have a body by now, or thousands of trail cam pictures at the very least, tells me that there is something very deep rooted inside of us that puts big hairy wild woods people in our minds. Sounds like something Bigfoot would say. Adding another lane will make traffic go away. Body hair grows thicker after it's been shaved. That if you work hard enough, you can be successful. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Bro, that was a commercial. You've spent your entire life repeating a commercial from before you were born. Sitting too close to the TV will make you go blind. If you get a raise that puts you into a new tax bracket, you will actually owe more money. My mom used to think getting a raise would result in her making less. Then when I entered the workforce, I saw someone say something similar. I was shocked to learn that this was a common belief. Edit. Hearing people talking about how employers perpetuated this idea makes me feel lucky. Never had an employer tell me that. Awful to hear them lie. Dominance and dog training. Edit. And as this post shows, the dominance theory is still permeating the culture and its advocates are pushing back despite the evidence to the contrary. Bigger is better in bed. A former friend of mine once told me of a guy she dated who was so big she said that no way that thing is going inside of me. She didn't say his name but only referred to him as horsecoke. That female bits are called vagina. What most people mean when they say vagina is actually vulva. Edit. For everyone who is so needlessly defensive, there is a point to be made about the impact this wrong terminology has on female sexual autonomy when it comes to sexual pleasure. For most women the vulva part plays a much bigger role than the vagina part, so it doesn't help when women only hear vulva when they talk to their doctors. So yeah, having a body part that gives you the most physical pleasure, and virtually none to your male partner, be erased from conversation and replaced with a different term that brings your partner pleasure instead, does make an impact. It's not a critical impact, but it's there. Throws Mike out the window. I think you mean Volvo. That ancient humans were very stupid, which for some reason to this day has been insanely persistent. So much so we give them nicknames that we pass off as what they are actually referred to as, like cavemen or Neanderthals, which doesn't make sense because Neanderthals weren't even humans to begin with. They are a whole separate species of hominid. Ancient humans were very smart. So smart in fact I would argue they are more smart than us modern humans. We definitely do not give them enough credit. At least not as much as they deserve, like goddamn. Ancient humans were very smart. So smart in fact I would argue they are more smart than us modern humans. I don't think I would say more smart, or smarter. I'd say they had an equal intellectual capacity as modern humans. That capacity was used in completely different ways than we do today, and the fact that we have all these social constructs which allow us to easily pass knowledge down from past generations to future ones, like language, writing, schools, libraries, the internet, cultural and scientific institutions, etc., allows us to skip a lot of the trial and error that ancient humans would had to go through with each generation. I think another part of the problem is that the way we think about intelligence is completely dependent on our participation in social constructs centered around the transmission of information. Like we'd consider someone dumb if they don't know 2 + 2 = 4. But that's learned knowledge based on the creation of language, writing, mathematics, etc. An ancient human certainly wouldn't know 2 + 2 = 4, and our ways of measuring intelligence would deem them stupid for it. However, if you took an ancient human at birth and raised them in modern society, they'd have just as much capacity for learning as we do. Trickle-down economics. That 13 is a scary number. Buildings don't even have a 13th floor because of this baloney. The fact that in the US, an employer can have a policy that says you can't discuss your wages with co-workers. It is illegal for them to even have a written or oral policy stating you can't discuss wages with others. Your family and relatives will always be there for you and blood never betrays etc. Herobrine. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.